Welcome to Catalyst Convos. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. I've had a lot of instructors pick me and say, I think that you'll be a fantastic instructor.
You have to be confident. You have to be.
One part of being a father is having standard for the people that are bearing your name.
It brought a lot of fulfillment to me. I was going to be essentially a support system. That's where I feel some instructors fall short.
And now we're here yammering our mouths off for about an hour.
Exactly.
But
minimal, of course, you guys don't.
All right. All right, cool. All right, well, for those of you who don't know me, my name is David. I've been a martial arts instructor for, 13 years now, 14. I've been training since I was 15, 33 now, so 18 years. Mainly Krav Maga, done a little bit of everything though, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu. Brand new father, and that kind of leads us into what we're going to be talking about today. Me and Dan here will just be discussing some of our influences and martial arts mentors, and kind of how we got on the journey that we're on today with owning our own, owning this gym, Catalyst Krav Maga, and So Dan, if you want to introduce yourself.
My name's Dan Brooks, Daniel Brooks. I got several different first names. People just, Dan is fine with me. But I've been in the martial arts world since I was 10. I'm 40 now. I've been training for about 30 years. I've trained several different styles. I've trained Muay Thai, I've trained Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, JKD, Wing Chun, Filipino Kali, Capoeira. So basically I'm a martial arts nerd. I love martial arts. I love the science behind it, and I really started to appreciate the science behind martial arts about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I've been teaching for about 20 years, and that's why my game has kind of changed when it comes to being an instructor. I've been able to step back and really look at the science behind whatever technique or whatever thing that I'm teaching, and I'm like, okay, how am I going to get this conveyed to anybody? Right?
Yeah.
How can I get this conveyed to everyone so they can learn it in the most simplest form?
Yeah.
Right? Because at the end of the day, I want to see everyone train martial arts, have fun, and just enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
And also develop that confidence in themselves to be able to know that they can physically defend themselves.
Yeah, I think that probably one of the most important things about being an instructor is just your whole perspective shifts. It's no longer about you. It's about how can I translate this material or this foreign language to some people, this foreign language of movement into something that makes sense, is simple, and can be effective, because we're here to help people protect themselves, and the fitness and the confidence are great, but at the end of the day, martial arts it's a tool.
It is.
So,
and it's interesting too, because if you think about shifting your perspective, right? While you've been training, the whole time you're training, it's an ego kind of driven thing, right? You're all about yourself. You're focused on yourself and your training, right? At some point, and this is why some people can't instruct very well. And this is in my personal opinion, right?
Yeah.
Some people have difficulty being a good instructor because they can't shift their perspective or mindset to focus on the individual that they need to help.
Yeah.
Right? And I feel like eventually it happens at some point, but the people that realize that sooner rather than later become more effective instructors or coaches or whatever the case may be.
And it's not always the best, most proficient dude in class.
No, it's not.
So I think that there's a myth that it's that to be a world-class instructor, you have to be a world-class practitioner.
Yeah. Or the best fighter.
Or the best fighter in the room or something like that. And I think it's absolutely false. The job of the instructor is to provide a framework for the class, and and I've been so fortunate to have people who have modeled that. For me throughout my entire training career is guys who have been able to really, really put together an environment of learning. And so we'll get into more of our specific mentorships and who we've trained under. And this was kind of inspired by Father's Day. So I'm a new father, and I think that one of the characteristics of martial arts is lineage. It's kind of an old word that's kind of not used anymore. But it is that is kind of the essence of martial arts. It's not an industry. People describe it as an industry. It's not. Industries have standards. As a great mentor of mine once said, we're a conglomeration of personality-driven fiefdoms, as my instructor Craig Douglas said. Yeah. So I'm going to give him credit for that one because those are his exact words. But yeah, like it's a lot of that kind of heritage of your instructor and their wisdom being passed down from one person to another person. Yeah. And so it is very fatherly, like it is silly in a way.
And it's interesting too, because you say that word lineage, and you know, I feel like that the legacy that you leave behind like really matters.
Well, and it's a word that kind of has become, I don't know, it's become, you know, like some people think it's important, but it's
become diluted.
It's become diluted, and also it's kind of like one of those. It's almost like patriarchy. Yeah. You know, it's like lineage, and it's like, you know, it's like, oh, like is that really important? You know, and it's like so like where you come from, and I think that one of the most important measures of a man is, or anybody in general, is the company they keep. Yeah. And that includes their mentors.
Right. Or like you said, the people that they've been with, right? If you think about that, right? You've been surrounded by several individuals in your life that have influenced you, whether it be in a positive and or a negative way, right?
Yep.
And can you take those pieces that you've been, like, take pieces from those guys or those people, right? And take all of those goods, right? And those bads, and become the individual that you need to become in order to fulfill your job as an instructor and your, you know, the things that you want to do, and you got to do it with passion too, right?
I think that there's been guys that have absolutely shown me who I want to be like, and then there are mentors that have shown me who I exactly don't want to be like. Yeah. And I count them both as mentors. Yep. Like some of them are positive experiences, and some of them might be less than positive experiences, but like you look at those and you're like, I was still mentored in that. Like they still showed me who I wanted to be, and like showed me a path, either the one that I didn't want to travel or the one that I really wanted to travel.
Yeah, there's a perspective that the word mentor is synonymous with positive.
Good. Yes. Right? I've learned more from my mentor's mistakes.
Right. It's not. It's not. And it's curious. It's just curious to me, like, why that term has been associated with positive all the time.
Yeah, because I think that we want to think that we're all about positive experiences, right? And you know, and like negative ones, we try to dismiss, or you know, like just kind of move into the background. I don't think we dwell on those as much.
Shove them under the rug. Yeah,
it's a little painful. Yeah, you know, at times, and you probably made like a lot of mistakes there too. So
a ton.
You know, so it's like, you know, because whenever there's bad mentorship, like you're not free from from like responsibility for that process. You know, so so as far as like what was your first experience with like a mentor in like martial arts?
Oh man, so I started when I was super young, like 10, and there was this one instructor that I had at Lynx. His name was Scott Turner. Super young guy. Well, I don't want to say super young, but he was like 20 years old. And I started training with him, and like he took me under his wing because I guess he saw that I had some kind of like, you know, skill, right? So he took me under his wing, and like the biggest thing that I got from him is like that guy, no matter how bad his day was, no matter how much training he did that day or that morning before, like he always came out and taught his class like at 100% and with the most like positive mindset as possible. Like he has been such a big influence on me, even now. Yeah. Like sometimes I think to myself, like, man, what would Scott do right now in this situation? Like how? Yeah. Like I still teach classes, and I'm like, okay, I'm trying to mimic myself at that capacity because I know how much of an impact Scott had on me. Yeah. And I knew I wasn't the only one that he had a huge impact on. Yeah. So yeah, that was my first experience with him. Was like, well, not experience, but just the first thing that I remember coming up as a kid training was Scott's like positivity and how he kept me wanting to come back to class. Yeah. And I realized the importance of that, like especially with like teaching kids. Yeah. Right. There's a big a lot of value when it comes to teaching kids classes when you teach in a positive mind frame.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Because as soon as that class shifts from positive to negative, those kids are easily affected, right?
They pick up on it so
They
quick.
pick up on it quick, but the parents see it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So like,
And you're not as patient.
yeah.
Like, like the fuse is a whole lot more just.
There have been so many like martial arts instructors that I've seen and or heard of in my life personally that I've watched and seen and heard or whatever teach kids classes where they're yelling and screaming at them.
Yeah.
Like you don't get anything done that way.
Yeah.
You think about this when you were a kid.
The military.
Yeah, you think about this when you were a kid. When your parents yelled at you, how receptive were you really? Right?
I did what I was told to do under threat of,
Right.
of whatever, but I
Right.
wasn't receptive to the idea.
When they were yelling and screaming, right? There's to me that as either, I don't want to like get too deep into this, but as an instructor, yelling and screaming at kids,
Yeah.
that's a sign of laziness.
Well, and yelling and screaming in general to me is like a sign that you've lost it.
Right.
So
You've
like,
lost your patience.
So like you've lost your cool. Like even if you're yelling and screaming at like adults, you know, because I've seen people do that too, especially in higher pressure situations like tournaments and stuff like that. And like it's like and I'm not talking about like happy or like motivating yelling like disappointed.
You could see that they're obviously upset.
Yeah, exactly. And so to me that's it's an instant like respect like down like 1 or 2 points.
I mean, there's a time and place for stuff like that. There is, especially in like when you get into the competition circuit.
Yeah.
Right. There's a different mentality when it comes to like teaching and training fighters. Right.
Yeah.
You got to kind of give them that like in your face kind of coaching at some point, not all the time. Right. But I think an instructor that's able to like balance that.
Yeah.
And do it when it's supposed to be used.
Yeah.
Right? Or is very effective.
Yeah.
What about you?
No, I think so. Yeah, so I started off with kind of an interesting eclectic martial arts background. I did Wing Chun Kung Fu first. Mm-hmm. So I started off in a little church program, nice. So like 10 people, so and taught by an instructor. Shout out to a Josh Velasquez. But he taught my first classes for 3 years. Program kind of dissolved. I think he moved or something like that, and then the program got tossed to me, and I absolutely blew it up. Like as an 18-year-old, not even black belt yet. Like I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I thought I had some maybe good ideas, but
you thought you did.
No. I mean, any of your ideas at 18 years old are quite solid. So But I've always wanted to do it. So I've always wanted to teach, and so like that. I think that's what got like the fire burning to really start wanting to go down like the instructor road. Yeah. And that's I think why I didn't pursue like more active like fight stuff. Like so like an actual fight career is because I was always pushing to be on the instructor teams or stuff like that. So people are like, well, what are you the best at? And I'm like, well, I'm pretty good at martial arts, but I'm actually better at being an instructor. Than like the actual martial techniques, because I've spent more time practicing that. Like for instance, like with Krav Maga, like I'm one of those went to a weekend course guys. So like that's how I started. Now that's not where I ended, and I think that's the important thing, because if you guys don't know, like Krav Maga is very interesting as far as like how you become an instructor. Like if you have 3 or 4 years of striking background in any art, then you can go to a weekend course and come back as an instructor. Whether how good you are. So that's why there's mixed quality when it comes to Krav Maga instructorship.
Yeah, it's the same in the Muay Thai world.
Yeah,
it's
so
mixed quality, but not in the sense of like going away for a weekend course and becoming an instructor.
Right, and another art form completely.
Yeah.
So it's like you could have 4 years of karate background, and then go to a Krav Maga course and come back as a Krav Maga instructor.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, so I did that process, but in that process, I was always like, this is this is not good enough, So I was constantly trying to push for more, but it just shows that I learned Krav Maga as an instructor.
Right.
I didn't learn it as a student at somebody else's gym, practicing it, under a master of it for years and years and years, like I've kind of been, if you want to use a term, wandering samurai, like, you know, so like I've kind of been like that, like, you know, so I got introduced to Krav Maga from an instructorship perspective, first and foremost. And then I was going back as soon as I got that course, and I was going back to teaching classes of it, you know, so a lot of stuff to figure out, screwed up a lot of times. Tip for the young guys here who want to become instructors: get yourself into a gym where the instructor pays you to make mistakes, because that's super important. Like if you can find a guy who will tolerate like all of your mistakes and keep you on board, and you know, and like help you and coach you, oh man. Like, you know, like that's like, gold.
Yeah, so like that's how I was essentially brought up in my teaching career. Was I trained until I was like 15. At the age of 15, I reached my black belt in the self-defense program that the Lynx Academy of Martial Arts had. And so like there was really nothing after black belt. There was that, and you get your belt, but if you wanted to teach, like that was the next level, right? So I showed a lot of interest in that, just because like it was the next phase. Like I wanted to stay at that school, and I wanted to keep training. But I had a really good time teaching the kids. Like I had a great experience doing that. And I didn't compete until I was like 21. Yeah. So from the age of 10 to 20, I trained and taught. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Because I reached this point in my, like, I guess, like, martial arts career, whether it be, you know, training and teaching, like, there wasn't anything else for me to do other than compete. I had done everything else. Yeah. And my instructor at the time was like, well, why don't you compete? And I'm like, well, I've done everything else. Why not? Right? I spent 10 years in the competition circuit. I specifically focused on, you know, Muay Thai. So I had like 6 fights. You know, they're all stand-up. They're all great. I had a great time. And I feel like that it was important for me to do that because that also launched me into a completely different arena, right? Yeah. To be able to teach at that level. Yeah. Because without like that background for me, how was I going to be able to teach a fighter? Yeah. Right. Or coach a fighter. Right.
Well, that is kind of the end state of Muay Thai training. Yeah. That is its goal. A sideline of it is self-defense, but the main goal is like 2 dudes in a ring. You know, let's match ourselves skill for skill, and let's see who comes out on top.
And if you go back to the history of the art, right? Yeah. Like you're saying, this is how this works.
That's the end state of this.
Yeah. You compete as a kid. In Thailand, right? You start at 7, 8, 9. Yeah. You compete till you're about 20. Yeah. Then or 20, 22, 25. Some of them retire like 25.
Hey, you're
have had like 300. Yeah, way over that. But have over like 300 fights, and then they go and teach at a gym. Right? Mm-hmm. They essentially retire and start teaching, and then they open their own gym at some point. Right? Yep. This is the cycle.
This is the arc. Yep.
Muay Thai like mentality. When it comes to training, teaching, and coaching, it's very similar to your boxing, right? Yeah. It's a sport. It is very good for self-defense. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. Because to me personally, there are a few martial arts that are so easy to apply into a self-defense scenario because they're so simple, and Muay Thai would be one of them. Yeah. It really is.
No, a lot of the striking, for instance, like in Krav Maga, is we have punches, kicks, elbows, knees. Yeah. Sounds rather similar to me.
Yeah, it does.
So some of the pieces, are definitely the same and pulled in and, copied and, so, yeah. But I think that, as far as, some of the most, influential instructors came later. Yeah. For me, because I think that your first instructor is always the one that kind of brings you into it. But I don't think they say that the master appears when the student is ready. Yeah. And so I've had a few really, really good instructors that appeared right when I needed them. Mm-hmm. So one is Ron Engelman. He's now my current basically oversight for for Krav Maga. I've been over to Israel now 3-4 times, trained for 7 days total in each one of those for 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
Absolutely long training days. And that was in pursuit of, I don't want to be the weekend course guy. You know, like I want to actually, if I'm going to go do this, like I'm going to go do this for real, you know, with a real affiliation, a real instructor. And it's funny because as soon as I was about ready to open up my gym, like I went to a training camp with him, and that was a mind-blowing experience. Like I did my first full week of like real instructor training with him, like right before I opened Catalyst here, and that was mind-blowing. Like it came at just the right time.
I'm sure it fired you up too.
It did.
It typically does. Yeah.
Yep.
Running away to, I don't want to say running away, but going off to like a seminar, typically like pumps you up, especially when it's with somebody that you really look up to or someone that's had a really big influence on you. Like I would have to say personally for me, like the one that kind of like yourself, like hit you at the right time. He had always been involved with the school that I trained at because he was the we trained under the Thai Boxing Association of America. Yeah. I'm sorry, of the world.
Yeah.
So Ajahn Chai, who happened to be the head of that association, he would come to our school, once a year, every August. And I wasn't old enough really to, go into the seminars until I was about 15. Yeah. And then that's when he started to have a really big influence on me because he used to, pick on me a lot because
pull you up, demonstrate.
Yeah, like obviously there was some skill there. Like he was interested. He told me I had a lot of potential. He had kept always telling me I would be a great instructor one day or a great fighter or whatever. But after that, like at the age of 15, I got invited to my first Muay Thai camp in Oregon. And let me tell you about experience, man. It was the worst. Best 5 days of my life. So it's insane, man. You go. So I'm gonna paint this picture real quick. You fly to Oregon, right? Yep. You go into the mountains of Oregon, right? Oh, yeah. It's so beautiful there, right? You're in this camp, and you're sleeping in Adirondacks, like outside, right? Bugs everywhere, like. Anyway, super cool, right? You wake up at like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and the first thing that you do is run 4 miles uphill and then downhill. So a total of 8 miles, right? Then you train for an hour, and then you eat breakfast. And then you train for another, 5 or 6 hours all day.
Sounds like Israel.
But like, I got done with my first one. I'm like, man, that sucked, but I want to do it again. Every year I would go.
For any of you who are avid martial artists and you've never done a 5 to 7 day training experience,
do it.
Like go to Israel. My instructor Ron has these courses all the time under Krav Maga Israel. Shameless plug, but seriously, these things, because it's like if you're training 8 hours a day for 7 days, that's 6 months of training if you've done it 2 days a week.
All in a week.
All in a week, and you've condensed it, and it's like eating extremely nutrient-rich food. Yeah, like it is incredible. So, just a side note: if any of you are like listening to this and you're involved in an art, I don't care if it's BJJ, Muay Thai, Krav Maga, Wing Chun Kung Fu, go find something that's a 7-day training course with a world-renowned instructor. Yeah, and it will be life-changing. It will. You'll be getting something out of it.
Every year, I looked forward to it because every time I did it, I was like, I knew I was going to come back fired up to teach. Better. Yeah. Fired up to teach, but 2, I felt so much better about where I was at in my training because I just spent literally, if you guys are Dragon Ball Z fans, we were in the hyperbolic time chamber, right? And we just spent so much time in there. I was like, yo, let's go, right? I just wanted to teach, right? I wanted to show my students what I learned. Yeah. Right? And it kept you in shape too. Like you can't just go.
Well, yeah, it gave you a goal all year.
You can't you're just go.
If I'm lazy, I'm going to get my butt kicked. This is going to be horrible.
And you had to be invited. So you were hand selected. Yeah. You had to be invited. There was only 100.
Good marketing ploy.
Yeah.
Great marketing ploy.
There's only 150 people invited
Yeah.
to this camp. Now, the great thing was, like, I think the coolest thing, other than the training and, the physical, like, crap that you put yourself through.
Yeah.
Being able to train with people from all over the world.
Yes.
I'm talking people that did Muay Thai in Spain, Australia, the Philippines, like Sweden, the United States, Mexico. Like, there was 160 people there that all trained Muay Thai, but together, like, it was just such a cool experience, man.
Well, that sounds exactly like my trips to Israel. Like, you go there and there's guys training from Greece, from like Britain. I've met some great dudes that I still keep in contact with, who are over in the UK, over in Australia. There's even a Japanese instructor. So there's a Mongolian one. So it's like there's a really cool network of people that you get to develop, and a lot of interesting and unique training partners, and also, like, the bonds and relationships that you form in those are super unique.
And it's so they're so quick. The bonds are established so quick. Because you know that person across from you that you're training with has obviously put some time in, as did you, right? So it's really easy to communicate. It's almost
There's
like
a lot of commonality.
Right, the walls are already brought down. Right? One of the most wild things that threw me off one camp, we went there was a group from Australia.
Australians are fun.
But they were Filipino. Right?
Yeah.
So I was training with one of them, right? We were talking, and he had an Australian accent, and it just threw me off.
As
and
a
I'm
Filipino,
like, hold on a second. Where are you from? I'm from Australia. Like, how are you from Australia? No, I just thought it was
They're
funny.
rather close, though.
Yeah, they are.
When you think about it,
yeah. But no, man, it's just really cool to be in, like, essentially a melting pot of cultures with all one mindset.
Yep.
Right.
It's a super cool experience. Yeah. Like, Israel sounds like the same stuff. Like, the worst days were always when the instructor would go, we're meeting for the bus at 5 a.m. And we're going to go to this dune. And, it's where the Israeli, like, officers, like, complete, like, one of their training courses. So you go to this dune, and it is, like, powder sand.
Right.
So it, like, puffs up, like, in the air. So it's super fine. So it gets, like, your ankles deep in it. So it's when you step. So there's this hill that you zigzag up. And, like, he's having you do burpees beforehand and going into the water and coming back out and like, sand wrestling. And then you run up this, incline, punching pads and defending sticks and guns. And you get to the top, and you have to run all the way back around all the dunes and come back probably half a mile. And then you repeat this for, like, the morning. And then
give me an ATV, man.
No, but it sounds like the same stuff, So, like, you wake up, you run, But yeah, those were always great experiences. You had to be invited to these things. So, beside it being a great marketing strategy, but, like, there's a ton of value to that, because, like, you said that like the instructor would, like, come by and, like, be like, hey, like, you have a lot of promise. So, like, as far as, like, when you're a student training, like, and you want to have, like a bigger imprint, or, like, a bigger, like, footprint on, like, your gym, or you want to be noticed, what are some of the things that, like, you do for that? So, like, what do you think was the key? Because I've had a lot of instructors pick me and say, hey, like, I think that you'll be a fantastic instructor.
Right.
And like, look at me and kind of, like, single me out and say, okay, like, and I'm like, I don't think I'm radically special. So, like, what's the secret to that?
I don't know, man. Like, it's really interesting that you asked that question, because, first of all, I've never been asked that question. Like, why do you think you were picked?
Yeah.
Right? Because
it's not everybody.
It's right. It's not
everybody.
And you know what? Like, I attest it to the fact that maybe I didn't have, like, the best technique right off the get-go. Maybe I didn't have, like, the same, like, energy as someone else. But, like, I know, and as an instructor, I can see this too, but I know that as a student, I gave it 110% every single time I came into class, right? And that can supersede talent any day.
I think it supersedes it all the time.
It does, because you can have somebody with talent that picks things up rather quickly, right?
Yeah.
They can take that for granted, right? And expect to be hand selected, right? But then you got this other individual over here who's busting their butt, training super hard. They may not have the best form and technique right now, but they have the aptitude and ability, and they will.
Well, it's so funny because I found that people think that guys in high places, you know, like the bigwigs and, you know, the guys that like you look up to in your organization or your affiliation or whatever, are too busy for you, or they're stuck up, or, you know, like, oh, they only pick the best. And like, I've found that like the guys who are at the top are the most generous with their advice, sometimes with their time. And I found that like there's a few qualifications for that. And like, number one is don't be a jerk. You know,
you have to be approachable.
You like, and you have to be humble. So like as the student, you know, like you have to, you know, like have that particular, like there's some young guys that like have the ability. It's like, like I teach you everything I know for free. And I think it's selfish partially on the part of the mentor, because they're like, someone I can mold in my image.
Right.
You know, and every master needs someone to mold in their image.
Yeah, because then how do you continue your legacy?
Correct, exactly. So I think a lot of it comes down to how eager to learn are you. I think that, so like that eagerness and the ability to kind of be a self-starter with it. To ask questions, to not need to be prodded, you know, to go and learn more things. It's like, oh, look, I did this.
And also,
and
like, be
I tried
proactive
this.
about it too.
Proactive about it. Huge.
Don't wait for me to react to you doing something incorrectly. Right. Be proactive about it. Like, okay, I messed up in this technique. I'm going to go home and practice on my own. And don't even expect me to tell it. Like, ask if you're doing it. Show me that you've been doing it. Right.
Well, and like I think that a lot of it comes down to like, because as the head instructor of my gym now, like I'm busy.
Right.
And it's like, if you don't show initiative, I don't notice you.
Right.
You know, but you have to be humble, but show initiative at the same time. So you have to be able to do things. Like some of the best instructors I have here tell me that I'm not teaching today.
Right.
Like, so like they'll come in and say, hey, David, we're teaching class today for you. I'm like, oh, really? Okay, cool. It's like, and they call it mutinies. So like they're having a mutiny and they're going to kick me out of my class, and I'm like, but I love it.
Well, that shows that
it shows initiative.
Right, and they're hungry. Like, you find people like that, man. That's golden. It's golden.
Exactly, and I think that's what our instructors probably
wanted from us.
Saw in us was like that drive where we weren't too arrogant that we couldn't be taught, but we were hungry enough at the same time.
Because
there's a balance there too.
There is. I mean, there is a certain. I don't know if the word like arrogance is the right word, but there is a certain type of like way that you need to carry yourself in order to instruct a class in a particular way. Right?
Absolutely.
So I don't want to. You have to be confident. You have to be. And I think that the sooner you start on that platform, like, and if you're listening in, like if you're interested in teaching, like start as soon as you can. Right? Because you'll be able to come over that barrier of like not wanting to talk in front of people. Like I will be the first one to tell you, I still to this day, if I'm in an uncomfortable environment, I don't like talking in front of people. But in a world like this where it's a school, dude, I will talk in front of people all day.
And now we're here yammering our mouths off for about an hour.
Exactly.
But
in front of everybody.
But like seriously, like that was a lot of my journey. Like that's why I started martial arts. Is I had a stammer. Like I had a really bad stammer. Like and that was part of the reason. I think like if you want to talk about motivations for starting martial arts, my motivation was, hey, if they make fun of me for like not being able to talk,
You're gonna beat them up.
I'm gonna beat them up. So it's to like the 14-year-old ape man in my brain, like that seemed rather logical.
I smashed them with club. Right?
Yes, at least they don't love me; they will fear me.
Yes, there's two ways to gain respect: it's love and fear.
Exactly. So like to my 14-year-old tyrant brain, like that made sense. Yeah. But like that's been like one of the biggest, I think, hurdles is. The first guy that like gave me a job, Scott Gilbert, like he was honest with me. Like he pulled me into his office and said, "I don't know if you know, I don't know if you have what it takes,
right?
Like because of your stammer. Like I don't know if you." And what he did, which was brilliant, is he said, "Hey, I have this dying little church program." So I got to teach a church program again. It's like it came full circle.
There we go.
So I failed in my first attempt at 18, trained for 3 more years or 4 more years. Did some instructor stuff, and then I was sent back to another church program. But this one was like 13 people. I grew it to 40 people.
Yeah.
And so, but he put me far enough away from his main gym so that if I was an absolute tragedy of an instructor, that like
it didn't affect him.
It did not affect his gym. Yeah. So so it's like that was the perfect solution for me. I think that one of his lines was. David thrives well with abject neglect. It's like just leave him alone. Yeah. Let him figure out his problems. Yeah. Don't talk to him about them, and he'll come up with like a solution eventually. Yeah. So like he just abandoned me like in this church program.
Sinking ship.
It's like have fun, dude.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to teach? I don't know.
Yeah.
Make it up. Figure it out, and I found that so much of life is just figured out. Like, no one knows what they're doing.
No. And then, like, the individuals that can...
Still don't know what I'm doing.
Right. The individuals that can pull off looking like they know what they're talking about are the ones that succeed, right? Because if you think about it, like, at the end of the day, students don't really know that you're saying the wrong thing.
It's why it's important to start when you're young.
Yes.
You have that false confidence.
Right. So, like, I was fortunate enough to, because Lynx Academy was owned by Frank Cucci, right?
Yeah.
That guy, super awesome, as far as, like, not only a businessman, building his martial arts school from his garage to what it was, sold it. Now he has an independent government contracting business, like, multi-millionaire, right?
So, like, there are rumors that he doesn't even exist because people have.
So I was actually growing up in that environment. He was prior Navy SEAL. Yep. He owned Lynx Academy, and his standards and expectations for his instructors were like this.
Yeah.
Right. And even at the age of 15 and 16, when I started teaching kids classes, like he didn't care how old I was.
Yeah.
Right. This is what I expect you to do. This is how I expect you to teach my classes. This is how I put money on my or food on my table for my family. You're going to teach these classes the way I expect them to be taught.
Yep.
Right? And he was a great instructor, right? Yeah. So I grew up in that environment of like, if I messed up, he would make me feel this big in front of everybody.
Yeah.
And my goal was to go out there and teach and not let that happen.
Yeah.
Because I felt that big and it would set me down for a week. Yeah. Like there were points where he was in the back office looking and just watching, like I had eyes peering at me while I'm teaching these classes.
It's funny because I never felt like I had that. Yeah. I felt like I had a lot less oversight.
Yeah.
It was just like go out and teach the class.
Yeah.
And like my instructor was either busy or he wasn't there or it was just like, and I was like, figure it out, dude. Yeah. And so, like, it was pretty interesting. I actually kind of liked that. Like, I did like that. Yeah. I probably made a lot more mistakes. I probably grew slower.
Yeah.
But like, I think it helped my confidence. Because,
I'm sure it did.
Because, like, I didn't have
someone like over you watching the entire time.
Like staring you down as you're teaching classes. Because that is the most nerve-wracking thing. Is like teaching in front of somebody that, like, you respect.
Yeah.
You're like...
Well, I mean, it's challenging. It definitely makes like it just makes you feel like really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And he just didn't do it to me. It was the entire teaching staff, the staff there.
Yeah.
Like, and that's why I personally feel like that Lynx Academy back in its heyday had the best instructors.
Yeah.
Period. The best fighters because he had the same mentality when he was coaching fighters. Like very, very, very like specific and intentional and high standards and expectations. You literally had to be invited to be on the competition team. You had to go through this rigorous test before you even considered to be on the team.
Yeah.
And I am so grateful that I grew up in an environment like that, because I think it helped me mature a lot faster than some 16, 17, 18-year-olds.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
what's part of that, like fathering?
Yeah.
Like that is one part of being a father is having standards.
Yeah.
For the people that are bearing your name.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
so because you wore a Lynx t-shirt, you were a Lynx instructor,
Yeah.
you were bearing the name of your instructor. And I know that when I put on a Krav Maga Israel t-shirt that I represent Ron.
Yeah.
I bear his name, and that's why there's a very large connection between martial arts, like mentorship and fatherhood.
Yeah.
Because your kids bear your name. Mm-hmm. You know, so
I mean, essentially, at the end of the day, all we are is the children.
Yeah, the products of of like our mentors and like our fathers, and whatever conglomeration that that comes into, like whatever personality traits we accept or we reject.
Yeah.
Is very similar to how we would with like our parents.
Yeah.
Like we take certain traits.
Yeah.
We adopt certain negative traits. We reject certain traits.
Yeah.
And then we become a conglomeration of them and our other influences in life. So it's it's the same in martial arts. I've been so thankful to have many instructors.
Yeah.
Not just one. Who's drilled me in like the ways of his particular style.
Yeah.
Like I've had a lot of instructors, and most of them are fairly, to coin another Craig Douglas term, martially agnostic.
Yeah.
Like they are like not a believer. They haven't bought into anything in particular.
Yeah.
And that's to me like a true self-defense mindset is I've never bought into anything in particular.
Right, because it gives you an open mind.
Yep. I've never bought in that this is the way, and that's what I love about like Krav Maga is Krav Maga, like its meaning is contact combat.
Yeah.
Or like contact fighting.
Yeah.
Meaning so close that I can touch you fighting.
Yeah.
Because in the military you have lots of like versions of fighting, which Krav Maga is a military martial art. So you have, well, I can shoot at you fighting. I can bomb you fighting.
Yeah.
I can send a rocket to you fighting.
Long-range tools.
Right, exactly. So, or now, but this is particularly fighting where I can touch you.
Yeah.
And you can touch me.
Yeah.
So it's like any combat inside of that range. Now, what does that mean?
Yeah. Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
It means what's effective.
Right.
So I love that. So some Krav Maga gyms will take it one way and another, and like this is why people are like, well, I've trained at this other gym and I'm gonna come to your gym. I'm like, yeah, you're starting at Foundations with me.
Right.
Oh, why? Well, because there's no standards in our industry.
Right. So, and it's the same with Muay Thai, because there really isn't like a curriculum.
No, there isn't.
There's
it's
no
individual
curriculum.
instructors.
And up until last year, or this year, I'm sorry, they didn't have a belt structure.
Yeah.
So it came out literally, I don't know, like 4 or 5 months ago that Muay Thai now has a belt system. Because, guess what? It's now in the Olympics, finally.
Yeah.
So now it's going to become more mainstream than it is already.
Positives and negatives.
Yes.
Yeah,
right?
positives and negatives.
So
the Olympics might have destroyed Taekwondo.
They might. It hasn't destroyed judo though. Like
no, it has not. Judo is for animals.
Yeah, it is. So we're going off the rails here, but anyway, like it hasn't, which is great. So explosive, man.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway,
you watch it in slow motion. It's like poetry.
Yeah, it is. Look at the form. Look at his guys' feet in the air. It's crazy. But I think like being at Lynx, too, for me was awesome because not only did I have Frank like to really like influence like those high standards and expectations in my form and technique as a student, but also as like an instructor. But like this staff that he had there as well, every single one of those people had their own teaching style.
Yeah.
How they got Frank's standards across, techniques across.
Yeah.
But I think Frank saw the value in having different types of instructors in order to appeal to his clients,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
His
absolutely,
students, right?
absolutely, yeah.
I mean, there was a specific reason why there's 200 some odd people that
Yeah.
training at that facility.
Yeah.
We at one point there was 300 people.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
so-
That's insane. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a huge
and so and yeah, especially like in this area.
Yeah,
you know,
it's hard to keep people.
Yeah, it is. But
yeah. In like my former gym as well would like, and I think that this was during the heyday of kind of like, not there isn't a heyday now, but like there used to be, I think, a larger one. Yeah, we had 320 members at our gym.
Yeah.
You know, like, and we were right next to each other. Links in my gym were practically right next
Yeah,
to each
it
other
was
for
Xavier,
like
right
quite a
down the
while.
street,
Yeah, we're right across the way. So we both had 300 members in each one
Yeah.
of our gyms.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's a lot of people.
yeah, it
You
is,
know,
and that
training.
we're coming consistently.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And now we're in the days of like the subscription mindset.
Yeah.
Right. And there's really no commitment.
It's harder.
It
Yeah.
really is. It's challenging
challenging,
to have a school that has consistent a consistent body count is
Yeah.
what I'll say.
Yeah.
Because but that's really on the owner and the staff there to really develop a culture.
Community.
Of,
Yep.
Yes, a
Yep.
culture of community and commitment.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's where a lot of martial arts schools kind of fall short. And now over the past like 3 or 4 years, I've been involved in like some slight like contracting work with other martial arts schools and kind of helping them build their business and do stuff like that and
Yeah.
training their instructors and going over their curriculums and plans and how they have everything set up. And I find that the ones that have a solid culture, whether they have 80 students or 350,
Yeah.
as long as the culture is has a community mindset,
Yeah.
school's golden.
Well, because I think that like, just like when we come into when we came into martial arts, like one of the things that I think that I wanted to do was grow up.
Yeah.
And like I knew, and that's why I came into it as a kid, like so as a teenager, because I knew that I needed growing up, and I didn't. And yes, I could do that from my father, but so I have a theory about that. My theory is that it's hard for dads to mature their own kids
Yeah.
because they love them,
Right.
and sometimes maturing takes a little bit of tough love or hard love.
Right.
And it's hard to be both, like loving father and tough love giver.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, especially as they become a teenager and they stop listening to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's easier to be the loving parent and send your kids off to other people who can smack them around. They'll probably listen to them.
Yeah.
To Mr. So-and-so, whoever.
Yeah.
You know, because he's awesome and he's cool.
Yeah.
Dad's just kind of mid.
Yeah.
You know, but like Mr. So-and-so, like he's an ex-Navy SEAL, like,
Yeah.
you know, he's a badass, like,
Yeah.
dude, like he's everything I want to be. And so you send him to him
Yeah.
and you go, you better straighten up.
Right.
You know, and then he gets kicked around by this dude at like a job or an instructing position with you and Frank, and then you come home to your dad and go, oh man.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
that
what
was
happened, son?
that was rough.
Yeah.
And then your dad goes, well, what happened? Tell me about it.
Yeah.
Well, do you think you'd made any adjustments here?
Yeah.
You know, no, I believe in you.
Yeah.
You know, and so you get to be like,
You get to be dad gets to be the superhero.
yeah, dad
Yes.
gets to be loving dad.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can have someone else
Beat you up.
beat up your kid for you.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
you know,
There is a lot of
just mentally.
there's a lot of
Maybe physically if
maybe
you're
physically,
in martial arts.
yeah. But there's a lot of value to that.
There's a ton of value to that.
because you're right. 15, 16, 17, 18.
you don't listen to your dad.
I didn't want to listen to my dad.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, it was so bad. It was so bad that like him and I just like it was really hard for us to communicate.
Yeah, yeah,
Right? Because when my dad got upset with me about my grades in school and me doing stupid stuff, like he was like the first thing he would do, he'd be like, all right, cool, I'm gonna tell Scott, and I'm like, no, don't tell Scott. Like that was the first thing that came
Yep.
to my head, right?
Yep.
And then sure enough, my dad was like, okay, we'll see. Sure enough, I go to class the next day, and Scott goes, hey, tell me about this thing that you did. And dude, my heart
Yep.
sunk.
Yeah, that was me. So like that was
Like-
my mom with like my instructor too. So,
Yeah.
like, you know, so it was a far more potent thing
Yeah.
to have to like talk to my instructor about me
And
screwing up.
when he said that he was disappointed in me, oh my
yeah,
gosh,
yeah.
dude. It broke my spirit. I was
Parents knew that. We're
right.
playing it.
And I knew Scott and my dad were in collusion. I knew they were. I knew it. My dad had Scott's phone number and everything.
Yep.
So and like as I grew up and became like an instructor myself.
Yeah.
Like I didn't see the value then, but like I saw it as I was coming up in the instructor world. Like I saw how important my relationship was with my clients and my students. Like I saw how important that was, and taking that responsibility on brought a lot of like what's the word I'm looking for? It brought a lot of like fulfillment to me. Knowing that I was going to be essentially a support system for 70 kids. Right? And some adults, right? That I taught, right? Like well, even now that I'm older, like I have a sphere of influence over, people that are younger than me, right? Because I have more life experience.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, and like the amount of like counseling that I've done with clients. Yeah. Like I should have like, a side gig.
We should.
But like it's easy to like conflate like being good at one thing with being good with a lot of things. Yeah. And so that's why like when we're doing this podcast, things stay generally around like the martial arts right now. Yeah. It's where we're experts, So maybe we'll stray into other stuff in the future. Yeah. And like talk about life experience stuff. But we're experts at teaching and like martial arts, and like going back to like the whole like community thing. I think that's why ultimately why people stay at gyms. Yeah. Because they come and they think, I'm going to get in shape and I'm going to, do this fighting thing. And then they realize that like they form friendships with well-adjusted people. Mm-hmm. Only well-adjusted people, in my opinion, can get punched in the face and then high-fived the person who just punched him and said, nice going, dude. Yeah. Like, that was a good one. Yeah. Like, well-adjusted, like, if you have any sort of underlying issues, like, you getting punched in the face and then having to, recover and not go into a rage fest or, start crying or, whatever, like, that takes being well-adjusted, so you meet great people doing this.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to see in a class. Yeah. Is someone get rocked and then go, dude, nice shot,
one,
right?
Nice one.
Like,
I love
seeing
about
that.
it. Yeah. It's like, you'll have a dude who outweighs you by 200 pounds land in your face for 2 minutes. Yeah. Then you're like, oh, that was a good roll, man.
Yeah, nice. Good job. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for dripping sweat in my mouth.
Yeah.
Like,
it kind of reminds me of...
So appealing,
how, like, back in the day...
Close relationships.
Super close. Back in the day, like, you would... The honor in, like, one general going against another general on the battlefield, right? With their troops. Mm-hmm. And, like, they would meet up, like, at the end and go, good fight or whatever. Like, that to me, that spirit is gone. Yeah. And because there's no honor in the world today. Like, but anyway, that could be a whole nother thing to talk about.
Yes, very easily.
But no, man, I love that. I love like the idea that you can kick somebody in the neck and then pick them up, and the guy can be like, "Hey, man, that was a good kick." Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you do see that, and
that is all built from your culture.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely,
and it starts from the first day that they walk in this school. Yep. The first day. Yep. Right?
We do tons of like community building events. Like some of the biggest things I think that people like don't do it in their gyms is have rituals.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like we live in such an informal world that I think rituals are super important. Like for instance, like whenever and community building rituals. Like when I line up people for like my Krav Maga classes, we go down and we fist bump each person going down the line. And I try to get all their names. Yeah. So I lead it, and we fist bump each person, and we all go in like a snaking pattern, and we all say, and then each one tries to say each other's names, and everyone now makes it a game. Like especially if they're in the intermediate class, and they know like most people, like yes, I got everyone's name this time. Yeah. So it's like not only do the instructors now know everybody's name, which if you don't know your clients' names.
Learn them.
Learn them. But like...
It's for tension purposes.
Well, no, it's the first part of that community. Yeah. Oh, and class safety. Yeah. Because if you want to yell at someone to like knock it off, just saying knock it off
Yeah.
who should knock it off.
Right.
Your client who is named Ed or someone else. I do have a client named Ed. Sorry, Ed. But, like, not you specifically, but
Not you, Ed.
But
Just
like,
using another Ed.
Yeah, it's another Ed. But if you need him to knock it off, you need to use his name to get his attention.
Yeah.
So, like, not only should you know your clients because that's a good thing to do, but it's also a safety thing in class, because you can't get their attention if they're doing something.
Yep.
So when you need to, and if you need to have that done right now to solve a safety problem, you need to know people's names. So it serves two purposes. But anyway, so like those rituals inside a class, like how you line up, how you do rank progression.
Yeah. That's a big part of the culture.
And like we have special funny songs that like we play. Like everybody now knows that when Usher comes on, we're doing a stripe test.
Nice.
So and then they go and they hear it in like an outside context. Like they're like,
is there a stripe test?
Is there a stripe test? Are we doing burpees?
Is there a stripe test?
it's like you permanently scarred this song for me. I'm like, sorry, but it's great energy. So we have these funny things that like.
And like
do.
I think there's so. The idea of like the small details really matter.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the class that I teach here, I always give everybody a high five. I won't track you down and give you a high five until you did a good job.
Yep.
Whether you did or not, I'm going to tell you did a good job because you finished the class. Right?
Yep.
I think that's super important.
It is.
Like if you think about the jiu-jitsu community, right? When you get a belt,
They
you
whip
get cracked with it.
Yeah. They whip you with it.
I'm not sure that's like the best thing to do, but like
have you seen the ones that like bring out the paddles?
I've seen people get choked with their own belt.
So I saw this one thing on Instagram. I'm not doing this in my gym, but like to each their own. So, some people will pay for this kind of treatment, but they have this big wooden paddle, and like just like you get hit with it like 10 times or like some amount like
that's great.
It's like a big wooden like.
We're doing that next week.
It's like
Friday.
an oar. I'm like, wow, like. People are banned for
it's
this.
made of like a pure oak tree.
To each their own. Like, it's in California. I don't know what they do out there. So, hey. Like,
it's the hardest wood
it might
on
be,
earth.
It might be a West Coast thing, but, but I don't know. I think that, like, one of the biggest gifts that, like, an instructor passes down to a student is actually language.
Yeah.
Like I think that's a huge thing. And that's where, like, one of my mentors, Craig Douglas has been such a huge like if you ever listen to him talk like as he's instructing, like he is a savant when it comes to language and tonality and all of those things, like an absolute genius with that. And I think that is one of the things that I've really been trying to codify when I teach and with my instructors is the consistent every time use of language to define terms.
Right.
I think that is probably one of the most important things that an instructor can pass on is like how to communicate with a client, because if you communicate and you're using different terms for different techniques all the time,
it throws them off.
Because like we have like front kick, teep, you can like snap kick, like front snap kick, like there's 3 ways to describe your leg coming up in a frontal plane
and going out
and like kicking someone with the bottom of your foot.
Yeah.
So it's like if you're using, different terms to like describe that, it can start to throw off clients.
It can. And I think that it shows a lot of synergy within like your instructors when they're all using the same nomenclature.
Yes.
The same. And Frank was huge on that at least. Like, I don't care what you think this technique should be called. This is how you're going to say it.
Yep.
And it developed consistency for the student, right?
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, that's who we are there to serve.
Yep.
The student.
And there's like the concept of industry-specific language as being actually a barrier to entry on certain things. Like, for instance, we could talk about certain martial arts things, and if you're not a martial arts nut like we are, you have no idea what we're saying.
About.
We might as well be teaching a different language. We could talk business stuff, retention, and and certain strategies, and it's that industry-specific language.
Yeah.
And one of the things that bothers me the most when I see an instructor teach a foundations class, if they use industry-specific language and don't explain it. because it's a barrier to entry for those people to understand. You're not allowing them to come in and join your group.
Yeah, you're almost like pushing them off to the side.
Correct.
Because they don't understand.
Well, they're dumb.
Yeah.
So it almost makes them feel like they're dumb.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, for instance, when we talked about guard for like a jiu-jitsu or like groundwork purposes, don't use guard and then not explain what guard is.
Yeah.
Like, what is guard? And if you can't explain what guard is in a way that, you know, for instance, like we use the term like, it's anytime your feet are like in between you and the person in front of you.
Yeah.
That is what a guard is. There are millions of variations of this guard. There's half guards, there's full guards, there's like butterfly guards, there's
spider guard.
There's spider guard, there's octopus guard now. There's like, you know, so many K guards. There's so many guards. Like just go YouTube guard and like, you know, and like 40 of them will come up.
Yeah.
But like all of them have in common one particular thing, which is the legs are in between you and the person.
Yeah.
So it's like using that type of, so it's like if you use an industry-specific term, which guard is an industry-specific term, as well as passing the guard,
yeah,
that's an industry, like you have to bring in, like, and that's one of the things that like, so like you have to bring in your clients into that language with you.
Right. And I feel like that some instructors miss the point when it comes to teaching classes in this sense. And it goes along with what you're saying.
Yep.
You need to teach to the lowest common denominator.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, right, if you have a group of students that 4 or 5 of them are there for their first day, like that should be the focus.
Yeah.
Right? Because the students that have been there 4, 5, 6 weeks or months, right, they've already heard all this stuff. They've already learned all this stuff, right? I've got to make it able to be understood by somebody who's been there for an hour.
Yeah, or less.
Or less.
Yeah.
Right? Because
I don't have special trial class slots for like
even
people who
if
start.
even if you did,
Yeah.
even if you did have a trial class, like you got to think going from a trial class to a large group class is an overwhelming kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right?
It takes a lot of bravery to go out
It
there
does.
the first
So
time.
someone stepping
Absolutely.
in for the first time in this huge class, all these people have trained before them, have more experience
Yep.
before them, and that's what's really going on in their head. Like,
Yeah.
I am the new person here.
Yeah.
It's the instructor's job to make that person not feel new.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And that's where I feel some instructors fall short. They teach to the easiest or the most abundant common denominator, which would be their time tenured students.
Yeah.
And you almost make those new students feel ostracized.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or you need to catch up or you're
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
get lost.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? That should not be the mentality.
Yeah.
How is that welcoming to somebody training the martial arts for the first time ever?
Well, and I think that everyone should at least train in some form of self-defense, whether that's, you know, like a seminar or, you know, something like that. Like, I think that you should, like that should be, like, almost part of, like, education. Like, when you get a car, like, you should know how to change the tires.
Yeah.
You know, maybe not change the oil, like maybe, but maybe not.
Yeah.
Like, but you should at least know how to change a flat tire.
Yeah.
You should know a few basic things. Like for self-defense, like you should know a few basic things.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah. So, but like, I think that there's such value in training it in this long term, mainly for the relationships. Like, so like I stay in doing this because I meet the best people.
Yeah.
Like when I go train in like other instructor courses, or I go train, because I'm kind of a training seminar junkie guy. Like I'll go off and train close contact gunfighting. I'll go train like assault rifle stuff.
Car-jitsu.
You know, I'll go grapple with simunition guns in a car with like other people. You know, I'm going down.
I know
to
you have a $1,000 car out there that you
we
bought.
We have a fight car that's like out in the parking lot so that we can grapple and try to like grab knives out of people's hands while they're trying to stab us in a car.
And
terrible
eat the M&M that
experience.
fell down on the side.
Yes,
right?
exactly. And find the French fries. those stale McDonald's French fries.
It's important.
Well, no, those can be used as weapons too because they're so old.
Stale. Yeah. And they have mold on them. If they get in the system, bro,
exactly.
they're done.
Poison them. But I'm kind of a training junkie. Like, you know, like I love that kind of stuff. Like put me, and like I love watching how instructors teach. Like you know, like I like to go to those things. Not only do I enjoy the training, but I look and see, I'm like, how does this instructor do this?
Yeah.
What's his teaching philosophies?
Yeah, I'm different though, like with seminars. I thoroughly enjoy being a student again.
I do too.
Because,
I do too. Yeah.
Because, dude, I've been training martial arts for 30 years. That's a long time.
Yeah.
Right? You've been training for what? You said 20?
18.
18,
yeah,
right?
18 almost.
That's a long time. Like, you get to this point to where you're like, I know a lot.
Yeah.
And then if I go off into a seminar and I'm shown one like little detail, it blows my mind.
beautiful.
And I'm like, man, this is amazing.
Yep.
Like, so.
Well, progress is so rare for us.
Right.
Like, you know, when we get progress now,
It's not, and,
like,
I'll tell you this, and I'm going to look right at the camera and say this. It's not because we're really good at it. It's because we've done it so long.
yeah.
There's it's different.
Well, gains are always made by like newbies.
Right.
Like, if you're in the gym and you lift, you get most of your gains from the gym in the first 6 months of training.
Right.
It's the same in fighting. Like, we've been doing this for so long that, like, gains, when you get them, are like every year or two.
Right.
And
it
it's
could be like the smallest
and it's
thing.
this small tweak, and you're like, I was doing that wrong for 18 years.
Right.
And you just kind of hit your head on like a rock and say, you stupid idiot.
Yeah.
Like, but like, that's why like I go to those seminars, because oftentimes like these guys are master instructors. Like, so like these guys, you know, like, so like, that's why I go to see Ron in Israel. That's why I go and see Craig. So like Craig Douglas of Shivworks. So that's why I go train with him. These guys are savants. Like, you know, like, they are there and they're master instructors, you know? And so it's like, it's like awesome.
Yeah. So I guess like in the case of like us kind of wrapping this up in that sense, right? We've had like mentors or father figures that have taken us along our life and our martial arts careers. Like, is there someone or something, like someone in your life now that you would consider like the biggest thing that has the biggest person that has the most impact on your life now, in that sense, like your father at the moment? Because as time goes on, there's different fathers, right? Different mentors.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have our father that's our birth-given father, right?
And I'm still in contact with him.
Yeah.
So
Same here.
Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah.
Like,
he's still a big influence.
I love my dad, and I obviously like I have no choice but to love him, like, because like right now I kind of sit back and I look and I said, man, he did so much for me.
And he's right about a lot of things that you didn't think.
That yes,
you know, and it's like, oh.
And I'm becoming my father more and more each day, and it's kind of like I don't want to say it's upsetting, because my dad is like, he's my dad. He's super cool, but like, man, I hear myself saying stuff like, my dad would have said that. My dad would have said that. It's
great.
My dad would have done that.
Yep.
But is there anyone that like right now for you that is like a really big influence?
I think Ron. Ron continues to be a really big influence, and like beyond influence, there's people who are in your corner that don't benefit from it.
Yeah.
And that's what Craig and Ron have really done. Is they stepped in to mentor me and to help me and to, you know, pour into me when there really wasn't much on the table for them besides like a seminar fee. And you know, it's like, I'm one of many coming to your stuff. Like, they're not hurting for people coming to their courses.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not like they're begging people. There's only 3 people there. Like, no, these are courses that are filling up.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not like my fee was special. But like they have invested in me without gain seemingly for themselves.
Yeah.
And like those people are special.
Yeah.
You know, when you have just people like in your corner for the person you are and not for what you can do for them.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. I stepped away from the martial. I don't want to say stepped away, because I was always training and doing my own training. Like right now, I consider myself fatherless.
Yeah.
At this point in my career, as far as training goes.
Yeah.
And I think it's not. It's only my fault because I stepped away from it for a while, and right now I feel this this huge responsibility on my shoulders to become a father for someone, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm at that point in my martial arts training career to where it's more important for me to take steps to become a father and a mentor to somebody as opposed to seeking my father for myself, right?
Well, that is well, that is a Christian ethos. Like both me and Dan are like men of faith, and and like to give back.
Yeah.
And to give is probably the highest calling.
Yeah.
That like you can have as a man, and I think that that's what's been the problem with fatherhood and patriarchy, if you want to call it that, so in the U.S. is because the fathers that have been there to take and not to give to give and provide protection.
Yeah.
Like to give that freely, to those who are willing and like deserving of it.
Yeah.
And so like but I think that is the ultimate calling, is you have to give back. If you don't give back, the cup stays full, and if the cup stays full, you can't receive anything else.
You can't fill it back up.
I've become such a better martial artist because I have taught.
Yeah.
And as I said, I don't consistently train. Like I'm at the point where it's hard to get me consistently training, because one, I do this as a profession. It's hard to like want to go and hit pads after I talk to someone about hitting pads.
Right, and
for
then
8 hours a day.
You taught for 4.5 hours already.
And but I've become so much better because I have invested in others.
Yeah. I was teaching Friday, and I had a moment of humility, right? I was teaching and I was sparring with a student that I used to train. He came back, he came here, he followed me here, and I'd been away from him for about a year, and I was like, man, this kid's chewing me up. Like, he wasn't hitting me hard, but he was quick, he was moving, he was on his feet, he struck me like 3 or 4 times and he'd back out, he's moving. And I'm like, man, I taught him that, right? And because I've been out of the game for so long, as far as like sparring goes, like my timing was off and he was taking advantage of it.
Old.
Yes, I'm old, right? but I was like, man, I got pissed at first.
Yeah.
But then I was like, no, you helped create that.
Yeah.
You helped him do that.
Well, like that's another kid that I have here. Like he's he's been training with me for a long time, and he like we would do grappling, and he was insanely good at it, like insanely good. And so I had 2 options at that point with like that student. I could retain him for myself and say, I'll continue to mentor you and give you everything you need. And I'm not a jiu-jitsu master by any means. I like it. I'm fairly good at it. Fairly meaning like bottom like 50%. Because the top guys are all competing and winning.
Well, I'm bottom 90.
Okay? So like I can go into most gyms and hold my own with like most people, but like he's a competitive whiz. Like I sent him to a really, really good instructor, and like he just did wonders with him. Like, and he's insane. He beats me up all the time. Like I have no chance against him now.
Yeah.
And he's 18, 19, and I'm like, holy crap. Like, but like I helped do that, and but it still hurts a little bit.
Right.
When I get tapped.
But hold on. You, as his mentor, were prepared and willing to send him off to somebody else for his growth.
Yeah.
Right? That to me defines a true father.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, son, I can't give you any more things.
Yep.
I can't show you any more things, and I'm more excited about your growth than anything.
Yeah, they're holding on to you.
I don't want to be selfish and keep you here for my own benefit. I need to send you off to somebody else to get better because I want to see you excel.
Yep.
And that is a huge, huge thing to do.
Yeah.
Like, it is a moment of humility.
Yep.
Right? Recognizing in yourself, and I've done it 3 or 4 times actually. There were 3 or 4 kids that I sent to another Muay Thai school because they wanted to compete at a high level, and I could not give that to them, not because I didn't think I was good enough. I just didn't have the time. Right?
Yep.
And I can't tell
it's not my focus.
Right. And I couldn't tell you how hard that was just to release them.
Yeah.
Right? But it's such a big thing for you to do.
Yeah, I think that on that note, like, you should find a father in whatever area you're in that is able to do that.
Yeah.
So like find a mentor. Every mentorship relationship must come to an end.
Has to.
And you can either do it 2 ways. a hard, nasty break, or with grace, where you both shake hands and say, let's still be friends, let's stay in contact.
Yeah.
I love you, man.
Yeah.
But you've tapped me out.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have much more to give you. This isn't my strength. This isn't my forte.
Yep.
I'd love for you to go on to this other guy that I know is going to
The amount of
do worlds better for you.
the amount of vulnerability there
It's
is
and that's what we
massive.
strive for, you
Yeah.
know. So, on that note, I think that's a great way to end the podcast.
Yeah, I think we were able to cover a ton of stuff. Like I said, it didn't even feel like an hour.
No, it was great.
Hopefully everybody liked it.
Yep.
But yeah,
Dan?
this is cool. David, thanks, man.
Great stuff, man.
Yeah.